Welcome to Go Phish, where we unpack the real-world battles of the people protecting businesses from scams, hacks, and the absolute circus that is the modern threat landscape. I'm Dan Thornton, and today I've got Brad Fraser, CEO of InfoProtect UK, an MSP that specializes in blending tech compliance and cyber insurance strategy to actually solve problems, not just patch them. Brad, thanks very much for joining us today.
True pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Brad, tell me about InfoProtect's mission. What are you guys doing? Who are you helping? And what are the real problems that you guys are looking to solve?
So Daniel, we started as an MSP and realized we thought we had to fill this niche of the insurance cyber world where insurance brokers were battling to articulate what cyber insurance did for clients and how that could benefit the clients. So what we then did was put another layer on where we bridge the gap between what's needed in cybersecurity for the clients to obtain or acquire cyber insurance, but at the same time making sure that the clients are cyber resilient. And we do that through governance, risk and control and compliance methods using global frameworks like NIST and CIA.
And who's driving that, Brad? Is it what you guys believe as subject matter experts is needed to reduce that risk, or are you working hand in hand with the insurance companies and the underwriters as well to really understand what they want to see from a risk point of view?
Yeah, so we're helping the brokers sell the client to the underwriter. And by that, I mean, we're positioning the client as an insurable risk, and therefore we share the client's cyber maturity in a very transparent way, so that when the underwriter gets our risk report, they can immediately see that the clients are paying attention to cyber resilience and cybersecurity, and that they would be in a good risk to take on from an underwriting point of view.
For sure. So the work you're doing is not double hatted, but it benefits two parties. The insureds are getting better prepared. They're getting better premiums for the insurance. They are getting insured. And then your underwriters are getting better risks to lower their risk as well. So everybody's winning here with the solution and the service you guys are offering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got it in a nutshell. What is quite important is the remediation services that we are then offer after the insurance. The insured becomes insurable and takes out the insurance. Invariably, that client then looks to us to continue the process so that on renewal, it's even easier for them to get even better cover, further reduce premiums. And the underwriters are excited because they know that we're managing that process and that we're ensuring that if the client says, yeah, I've got MFA installed or put throughout my organization, or I'm backing up my data, I'm just talking about the basics now, that in fact that is true. So the propensity to have a claim is then reduced quite dramatically.
And Brad, tell me, for those listeners who aren't familiar with cyber insurance offerings and the cyber insurance industry and business model, how strict are the insurers when it comes to these precautions or these controls in place? Would it not just benefit the insurer to take on everybody as a customer and ride those numbers and ride the volume and just give everybody policies to make as much money as possible?
So there's almost two layers to that situation where under a certain revenue level, the insurers are much more lenient in terms of giving out policies. There's always a caveat to it, and there's always the subjectives or exclusions and things to that account. So at first approach, it looks quite reasonable to get the kind of cover that the insurers are offering. But it comes with a bit of a catch that you've got to make sure that you've got everything in place. Because insurers just ask some basic questions. Typically, have you got MFA? Give us your URL. We're going to check your domain for an outside-in scan, which doesn't really prove too much. Do you back up your data? And if the answer to those questions are yes, you invariably would get cyber insurance. But as I said, the subjectives are that, hang on, if they find something that's not quite right, in other words, you haven't really presented yourselves correctly, there's a chance that your claim could be repudiated. And then you get the higher risk clients, which is really where InfoProtect works, where we're talking about industries that are difficult to insure and are a higher risk and have got much higher turnover. And those are the clients that would then, I wouldn't say battle to get insurance, because you would always get insurance if you cover some of the basics. But it's, once again, it's that presenting your case to the underwriter in the best possible way, so that when the underwriter looks at it, as you said earlier, they can judge that risk quite quickly and quite easily. Then they all tend to get cover, once again, quite easily. But it's not that the insurers want them to hand out as much policy as possible and take risk. They certainly don't want to take risk. It's, does the actual client, the business, think they need cover? And that's the challenge we're having at the moment.
Yeah. And what markets are you seeing, Brad, where there is a mature understanding and awareness of the need for cyber insurance? What markets are you operating in, and are you seeing that they really understand this and businesses are getting coverage? They're seeing this as part of their cyber risk management strategy. And what markets is this just not evident in yet?
So retail obviously is one of the areas, based on what you've seen lately with Harrods and M&S and so on. But we've got quite a good cover in the motor dealership space, because obviously there had been some big areas there where Arnold Clark was hit a few years ago, and they're still recovering from that, by the way. So retail is an area where people do get it, because they do have a lot of touch points where there could be issues. Financial services, legal, those types of areas, once again, because they are fairly high risk. Telecommunications businesses, because once again, they're dealing with a lot of client data, and they've, once again, got lots of areas of a big attack surface. And those are our predominantly the areas that we're specializing in.
Okay. Interesting, Brad. And when you're working with clients, are they coming to you and going, we need cybersecurity, we want to build this from the ground up, we want a full sort of coverage around a cyber risk management plan? Or are they coming to you going, we need insurance, you need to help us get insurance, tick the box as necessary? Or is there a mix of that? Like, what is driving the demand for cybersecurity adoption, basically, is my question there. Is it companies actually realizing they need it? Is it GDPR or POPIA requirements, or is it the new cyber insurance requirement?
It's mainly our market is to the brokers. So we're talking to the brokers, and we're giving them assistance to get their clients insured. And the brokers are seeing it from a compliance point of view from their side, that they need to offer cyber insurance to their clients to have fulfilled their, because they don't do that and something happens, they can be liable because they're under authorization and so on. The brokers then, in wanting that to happen for their clients, are then coming to us and saying, please help us get the client in the right position, or help us understand that the client is in the right position, that they will be rewarded with an insurance cover and not just turfed out. So a lot of brokers that have come to us said, listen, this client, a large client potentially, we're not certain whether they're going to be insurable or not. And then we run what we call Cyber Assess. It's one product that we use, and it's a service that we then generate a report through that gives that initial overview of what the client's cyber posture is. And everyone sees it. So the client sees it, the broker sees it, and the underwriter sees it. And we guide them through that process. So we will even have a call, in a lot of cases we do, with the underwriter to explain the client's cyber posture. Because most often the underwriter will say to the broker, get this form filled in and return it to us. and the form may have 20 questions, and a lot of them are yes, no answers. And as you know, in cyber, most cases, there's no yes, no. There's a mitigation, or there's a part of it, or it needs to have a different understanding. So once again, we really help the broker and guide the clients through their cyber insurance acquisition, and then obviously help with renewals and any remediation that they need in having to do the work required to keep them on the roadmap.
Yeah. And Brad, what level of sort of qualification, subject matter expertise are you seeing with the brokers here? Now, this is quite specialist. It's quite a specialist insurance product. To really be able to assess a customer, a policy holder, and assign a risk score to that policy holder or potential policy holder, you need a fairly good understanding of what you're looking at and how to assess that. And that's obviously where you guys come in and assist. But what are you seeing with the level of understanding in that space with the brokers who are selling this product?
The brokers are very well educated on what the insurance cover will provide, and they know how to present that to the client. In other words, that the wording is correct, and the fact that typically the very good cyber insurance brokers always offer a separate policy and don't just have it as a line item within a commercial policy, because that's extremely dangerous, because then the wording gets convoluted and mixed and so on. So your specialized cyber insurance broker will deliver a specialized cyber insurance package or a solution. And they are schooled very well by the underwriters and the MGAs and the various people that are offering that service. When it comes to do the clients, or has the client actually positioned himself correctly, that's where we come in. Because a broker, that's not a broker's function to then go and double check what the client is saying on the proposal form, for example, is correct. And have they opened a hole up for themselves that they've said yes to something that if a claim came along, it could be repudiated because the answer was misconstrued or the question wasn't understood correctly.
And then Brad, from an incentive point of view, how the insurers that you're working with or the brokers you're working with and the products available, what are you seeing is incentivizing companies to up their level of maturity and spend on cyber? Yes, there is maybe they won't get coverage if they're not, hitting certain marks and coming in as half decent risks. But is there further incentive? Are companies getting lower premiums? Are they getting lower excess? Are they getting additional? What is incentivizing companies to go out and really sort out their cybersecurity before talking to their insurers?
Certainly, that's what we're offering. We're offering as part of our service that do these things correctly, whether you use us or not. But if you do these things correctly, you will get a reduction in premium and you will get better cover and you will have less exclusions. That's almost a given, but you have to do those things and then you have to present them in such a way. So if a client wants to be insured, they will do those things because they don't want to pay a high policy and they want as much cover as possible because they're doing it as that risk mitigation or that risk transfer exercise, which forms part of their cyber resilience method program that they're putting together for themselves. So whether they self-insure or actually get insurance, they still need that risk transfer that says, I need some fallback to pay for my direct expenses, my third-party expenses, and everything else that's going to come up. So it's all very well and good. Do what we are recommending, but still get the insurance because you need that as your risk transfer or your mitigation to cover yourself completely.
Yeah, and when I've seen this before, where a lot of times trying to get companies to spend an assigned budget to cybersecurity is so difficult because it is seen as a pure cost center. It's so difficult to justify that investment and justify that spend when it can be so well put to use elsewhere that's maybe generating profit or massive cost savings. And your cybersecurity experts struggle to justify it to the bean counters. They struggle to justify it to the executive team. There's no tangible benefit that they can demonstrate, except when it comes to insurance. And if it's done properly and it's presented properly, if there are true cost saving benefits, that you can get lower premiums, that you can get your lower excesses, if there is tangible numbers you can throw at the executive team and at the bean counters, this shows huge benefit in cybersecurity. And so it's such a nice way to actually sell it to the customers, for the brokers, because you're actually able to prove some return on investment there. And it's one of the few places with cybersecurity where you're actually able to measure those benefits.
Yeah, well, exactly that. So that, the offering that we put forward is you should be able to pay for what we're going to offer you, not just in your initial assessment, but your ongoing work out of your cost savings on the premium.
Yes.
So, picture the fact that you've got a £300,000 premium and you offered a 20% discount that's going to give you £60,000 back in your pocket. And then they can take that £60,000 without any extra budget being required and spend it on cyber resilience, which come renewal would once again in turn create another saving. So it pays for itself. And on top of that, what we look at is not just throwing technology at the problem, because that's typically what I wouldn't say your IT person will do, but your technologist will go, well, I've got a cyber problem. I have to throw some technology at it. In a lot of cases, they don't, because they've already got the technologies in place, but they're not paying attention to how it should be set up or put in a way that everybody understands what's happening. And that's what we talk about in inclusivity in terms of security as well, Dan, where it's not just an IT problem. If you're not ensuring that all your staff members are involved in this process, you're not hiding to nothing, because then you are just going to throw money at technology and you're not going to you're going to get frustrated because you're not going to get the outcome that you desire.
Yeah. When you're going through your assessments with policyholders and then working with them to help them with the risk management strategy, how critical is employee behavior and culture in getting them to be truly resilient and maturing them as organizations? How important is that to you and your team to help them sort of develop that?
Well, that's where we start. So if you look at it, most people say, I don't have a security problem. And the first question I ask them is, do you have an internet connection? And they say, yes, I have. Right. Straight away, you've got a problem, because that's the entrance in. Number two, do you use email? Yes, I do. There's your biggest challenge, because that's where, in most cases, your attacks are going to come from. Social engineering. If you look at what happened with M&S, it wasn't a clever cyber attack. All they did was the hackers just pretended they were a staff member wanting their password reset. They got it done. The minute that happened, they were inside. So once again, that's a very human issue. Were those people made aware at the help desk that this type of thing could happen? Whether it was from a phishing email or whether it was a compromised email in some kind, were they aware of those things? Had they been made aware of it? And could they, and these are the questions we ask. So, we look into the finance area, we look into the compliance area of the companies, we look at the third part, who's looking after the supply integrations, who's looking after their parts provider, because they're providing them with a software as a service application. What controls are put in place for that? And are the people managing it aware of what those controls should be?
And how are you delivering that awareness, Brad? How are you and your team helping customers raise that awareness and develop an awareness culture or a security culture? What steps are you taking to help clients with that?
Well, we're starting with the board to make sure that the board are, I nearly said on board, but that the board are aware of the challenges and that they are providing the right insight and culture of the organization. And then it's done on the basis of, we need to have some training programs put in place. What are those training programs? Who must they be given to? Who must be paying attention to them? Or is someone looking at the results? Clicking on links like, your phishing emails, as you're very well aware of, Dan. Are the staff members aware of those kind of risks? Has it training been put in place? Because that's your entry point once again. And has it been done in such a way that is non-threatening? Because, if you start doing some training and saying, oh, well, you were caught out, what's that person going to do eventually? They're not going to put their hand up. And you want, what we want to ensure is that the staff members, if they do see a phishing mail and they're aware that there's a link they could have clicked on, are they telling someone about it? Is there a reporting structure that then says, if I find this, I need to tell someone. If I've done something, I need to tell someone. Because if you don't have that, once again, the training is worthless, because your staff members are just going to absorb all the problems and then just throw them away.
Yeah. And Brad, mindset versus mandates, what are you seeing? And over your time that you've been in the industry now and you've been working in the space, are businesses getting it? Are they understanding cyber risk now? And are they taking measures themselves? Or are they really just checking a box? Are they doing the bare minimum to check that box and show that they're compliant? Or are companies you're working with really getting this now and throwing everything at it to reduce risk because of how it could negatively impact their business?
I would say the longer we work with them, the better it gets, because we are helping them understand what's the difference between pure compliance from the fact that we've now ticked a box and we're compliant, and then taking that compliance and putting it into a plan and a procedure that makes it operational. And then why are they doing it? It's not just to get insurance and to get better rates, but when the technical people within the businesses can show to the finance people and show to the sales people that if they do this, not as only everyone at less risk, but there's other things that then manifest. So, for example, in the motor dealerships, most of the franchises like Toyota and BMW, written into their franchise contracts are certain mandates where they have to comply with certain things like Cyber Essentials Plus or whatever the case may be.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant.
And it's almost they're forcing it to happen. But then the businesses are going, well, if we've got to do this, let's do it properly. And let's see what we can gain out of this, and let's make it a differentiator. So in a lot of cases, it's about being a differentiator, and more importantly, not carrying the risk. Do you want to be an M&S? Particularly companies that value their brand so much. I mean, you take a family business where the grandfather or the father started and has been running 70 years, and his or her name is so important to them. All they've got to have is a bit of a connotation that their brand is at risk through something, and it will affect them emotionally quite a lot, despite on top of it, what's going to happen in the marketplace. That clients are going to go, do we really want to go to this brand? Do we want to go to this dealership? Do we want to go to this retail outlet? Do we want to transact with them? Because are we at risk as well? So I think that's where the processing's taking place. And then also the technical people are getting excited about it because they're going, yeah, you're right. We do need to have a data loss prevention plan in place. And what does that mean? And then we'll excite them with the fact that, that if you do this, you're going to prevent these things happening, and that's going to be better for everyone.
Yeah.
And then we also make sure that they do it without having to go and ask for extra budget. Because we look at the technologies they've got and go, you've actually got the technology in place. You just got to turn a function on, or you've just got to put some rules in place to do it. And that will change the whole impact of how you're doing things. And that's the guidance we can provide.
And with that guidance, are you seeing a lot of companies that are going technology first and they've got the tech, like you've said, but they may not have the policies in place to really implement that properly across the organization? Are you coming in and helping companies with their policies as well? Is that a big part of what you're seeing and where you're helping?
Exactly that. So they can have the technology, but who's looking at it? Who's looking at the results of what that technology is telling them? They may have a security operational center and a whole lot of logs come in. There's been an attack or there's a potential intrusion or whatever. But who's reviewing that? Yeah. And if they do review it, do they know what they're looking at? And then there's a plan based on the policy. Is there a plan that says, now you do the following? Do they know that and what they should be doing? So that's a lot of the other benefits that we will bring. And once again, it's just helping them, clients become more resilient, and therefore everybody wins.
Yeah. Brad, last question. If you could instantly fix one thing in the world of cybersecurity and insurance, what would you eliminate or change?
How email is treated and how it's viewed.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Whether that will change insurance or not, I don't know. But it's I think to create the awareness around that is very much needed. Very few people still understand those.
And is there a technology solution to that, or is it training and awareness that you think is going to get that across? I mean, what other way can we change people's behavior, understanding, and awareness of the threat that's coming in through the mailbox other than training?
You need the training on that side, and you need some technology on the other side to manage how that then gets presented or how that gets dealt with. But you're right, without that training, Dan, without that entry point, how do you do it? Both you and I are technical, and you don't have to put your hand up, but I'll put my hand up. There's many times that I've thought, is this real or not real? And had to stand back and look at it for quite some time before you realize that, wait a minute, there was a risk here.
Yeah, 100%.
So the poor people that haven't been trained to look for things or to be made aware, how do they manage it?
And it's only getting more and more difficult and more complex and more dangerous with the AI technology that's coming in now that bad actors are being able to use to launch these attacks that make social engineering more difficult and tricky than it's ever been. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Brad, this has been amazing. Thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Love diving into the cyber insurance space and hearing about everything that you guys are doing. Before we go, where can people connect with you and InfoProtect?
If you go to our website, www.infoprotect.co.uk would be the best way to get hold of us, and you'll see what our services and.
Fantastic, Brad. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was great. Thank you very much. Cheers, everybody. Thanks. Yeah, thanks very much for joining us on this episode. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you liked this today. Thanks a lot, everyone. Stay safe.